June 2024, I was heading up to Scotland for a friend's wedding. My wife wasn't able to join me as she was attempting the National Three Peaks Challenge, so I decided to spend some time before the wedding on my own in the Cairngorms. I'd never been to this part of Scotland before, but I'd read a lot about it. I was staying at the Glenmore campsite and drove up to the Cairngorm mountain car park, which was only about 10 minutes away. Once I was parked up, I got my kit ready and was off just before 8 AM. I headed past the cafe and turned left onto the funicular railway. This took me up the windy ridge, which I think is a ski piste in the winter. The path is very clear, but you do gain height quite quickly. I was going quite fast as I wanted to get to the top and assess the conditions, as at this point the top of Cairngorm was still in the clouds. As I climbed higher, the clouds started to dissipate and I got my first glimpse of the Ptarmigan Cafe, which is at the top of the funicular. By this point, all the cloud had burnt away and the spectacular views became visible. The end of the path was quite steep. It then gives way to a boulder field where I followed the cairns to the summit. The summit itself is marked by a larger cairn, and just a little way away is a weather station which recorded the highest official wind speed in the UK in 1986 of 173 miles per hour. I then headed down the western flank to start heading towards Ben Macdui. This is where I got the first stunning views of the Cairngorm Plateau. I deviated from the route to get to a summit cairn I'd seen from the top of Cairngorm. This took me in slightly the wrong direction, so I headed back on myself to rejoin the main path. Not long after, I deviated again to bag a couple of Munro tops, Corrie Snector and Corrie Locken. There was a path at times, but it came and went. This route took me to the top of the cliffs I could see from my campsite. The patches of snow were a lot bigger up close, and so was the drop. It was quite hard to find the route back to the main path once I'd been to the top, but I made sure to keep a lot of distance between me and the edge. From here I followed the main path around to the plateau. I couldn't believe there were still large patches of snow, even in mid-June. I passed Faith Buoy and Loch Buoy, the site of the 1971 Cairngorm disaster. I then started up the slope towards Ben Macdui. As I ascended, the high grassy meadow gave way to boulder field, where for a while the path disappeared, and once again I was following the cairns. There was one last steep section, and then the gradient became more gentle. Here I got my first proper views of the peaks on the other side of the Larrig Grue, some of the highest peaks in the UK, Breriac, Cairntoul and Angel's Peak. I'm not even going to try and pronounce the Gaelic name. Before heading up to the Ben Macdui summit, I took a detour and headed up to another peak that's just referenced by its height of 1295 on the map. I didn't spend too long there. I retraced my steps and finally headed to the Ben Macdui summit. Although it was overcast, the visibility was great. I found myself a good sheltered spot out of the wind and had my lunch at the top. The views were stunning, and it was probably the first time I'd been to a British mountain and not been in the clouds. I could have stayed there all day, but I tore myself away and started to head back towards the car. I went back the way I'd come up until I got to the Loch Buoy, where I headed left around the western flank of Cairnlochen. From here, you really got a sense of scale of the Larrig Grue, as it's kind of hidden when you're on the main plateau. When I got back round to the other side of the northern corries, I could see where my journey had started, which felt like an apt way to end a day's adventures. After crossing a couple of streams, I was finally on the last stretch back to the car park. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing. Until next time.